This year, the original Game Boy turned 33 years old. I have so many memories playing this thing as a kid. There's my initials right there on the back. And I wanted to give this thing a new life. Now, before we get to the finished product, I'll say that this is not my first Game Boy mod. I've already replaced screens on both my Game Boy Advance and my partner's Game Boy Color. So we're going to go through this whole process. First off is disassembling the entire old console. Never mind that I didn't actually do this in my rush to fiddle with the new stuff, like that new translucent orange shell. Next was separating the main board from the screen board. There's usually a ribbon cable connecting them on most Game Boys. And inside the shell is a board. A very old PCB. No wonder these things survived the Gulf War. Okay, next up is removing the board holding the now dead screen. So we're going to replace this entire board. We don't need to do anything with this thing. The new screen also comes with its own controller board, so this is of no use to us, even with a new speaker. We have a new speaker as well. So next up are the buttons and the membranes, which are very important. I cleaned them up as best I could with a little isopropyl alcohol. And isopropyl alcohol is your friend when it comes to cleaning old tech like this. I've got a spray bottle on hand pretty much at all times to clean cartridges or controllers or even my computer mouse or my keyboard. So here's the only little bit of soldering that we're going to do. We're connecting the speaker. And polarity doesn't really matter here. You just connect one wire to one lead and the other wire to another lead, and that's it. And plus, soldering can be kind of fun if you, I'm getting better at it, but it's a nice skill to have, for sure. So for the new screen, it's an IPS screen, and it's probably recycled from some old cell phone, and just connecting it to the control board here, or just connecting that to that little slot and that ribbon cable, and we'll get back to that later for the final install into the new shell. Now, before we can include and install this new screen into the new shell, we gotta make some adjustments and modifications to the new shell itself. Mainly getting rid of some of these pegs that are in the way for the new screen to fit cleanly, and for the bracket that holds the screen to fit in there as well. A pair of snips and a Dremel tool made really quick work of this task. Dremels are very fun and very satisfying to use. So we just broke that out and kind of ground it down, just shake it off and make it as smooth as possible so that there's, things fit really tight in these builds. So every single millimeter, every single fraction of a millimeter matters. So getting that as clean as possible. And then we move on to assembly and testing of that screen. So we gotta put in the buttons, put in the membranes, and then we did the screen and the screen board. And you didn't see me attach the screen to this clear plastic bracket, which helps it line up with some of these other pegs and fits it just perfectly where it needs to be. Big ups to 3D printers everywhere. Here I'm placing the speaker, and I forgot to remove the adhesive on the speaker so that it stays in place. There were a handful of things that I forgot to do the first time around on this build, but we're going to pretend that it all went intended the first time around. So there. Here is the ribbon cable to connect the screen control board to the main board of the Game Boy. It took a few tries to get it slotted in. Yeah, we had to fold it over to get it to just get the leverage to fit it in there. And then comes the main board. It fits into the other half of the shell, with the bottom fitting into the headphone jack slot, like so. I'm just checking the fit up here. Like I said earlier, this was a very tight build. The new boards were... It was tough to get everything to fit all in there. It doesn't help when you put the power switch in backwards, like I'm about to do right here. The other tab goes into the shell. Yeah, no, the other way. Yeah, I'm gonna have to fix that. Again, I went back and fixed a lot of things. Now this was probably the trickiest part of the build. While the screen board and screen are attached and affixed to the first and front half of the shell housing, I had to insert the ribbon cable into the other side of the main board already attached to its shell half. And it took a few tries to get that inserted, but then it worked out fine. And I quickly learned why you don't put in the power switch backwards, because it just don't fit up. It just don't work. So I had to go back and do that again. But after taking out the power switch and getting that reinserted the proper way, things fit up pretty nicely. It was still just really tight, really jam-packed. So here we are with the first proper fit up, and then we'll get on to testing the screen. I suppose I could have tested this earlier, but you do need both halves of the shell. That's where the battery compartment is. Those both need to be connected to test the screen and get the batteries in there. So we're gonna load it up and test it out and see if it works. The moment of truth. Did I do all the right things? Will it actually work and turn on? Hey! Now we just have to try again. Kirby's Block Ball. Well, sometimes game cartridges don't always work the first time. Now, did I take the cartridge out and blow on it? Yes. Do you need to? Or is that the best way to treat a cartridge that doesn't work? No. And it sometimes can help. Usually I would take the isopropyl alcohol and clean the contacts, and that would usually do it. But there we go. That's a working screen in an original Game Boy adjacent. And we're done. That's a working build, a finished build of a Game Boy DMG unit with a new shell, new screen. Very happy with this build, and I'm glad to have my Game Boy back. Now you want to see some glamour shots, right?